So hello there, and welcome to a new Night of the Movies podcast. And in these podcasts, I talk all things movies and TV, and whatever I want, for about half an hour to an hour once a week. And in today's podcast, I'm reviewing the newest film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And I'll also be discussing why this film is the last straw of me for Marvel. But just before I get into that, I should say what I say at the start of every podcast I do, that if you are watching this podcast on YouTube, hello there to my viewers, but heck, you just don't have the time to watch the full podcast on YouTube, that you can also get this podcast out audibly on Spotify at Night of the Movies on that platform. And also there should be a link to this podcast on Spotify in the description of this video below if you are watching on YouTube. But also, if you are listening on Spotify, hello there to podcast listeners. Thank you very much, by the way, because according to my statistics, I get no listeners on Spotify. But if you are listening to Spotify, thank you very much. And I should also let you know that you can watch the podcast visually on my YouTube channel at Nights and Movies on that platform. Likewise, wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast, please feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy it. I mean, if you don't enjoy the podcast, you don't have to like and subscribe, but I will feel offended. But still, if you enjoy the podcast, please feel free to let me know why. And also, leave me some feedback as well, so I know what some people in the near distant future. Maybe you want a special guest on the podcast, maybe you just like what it is me and you, the viewers or the listeners at home. Leave me some feedback on what you like and dislike about the podcast, and also give me some ideas, some topics I can talk about in the near distant future. You know, I'd love to get some ideas and topics to talk about. I'd absolutely love it, and I haven't had any suggestions yet, so yeah, feel free to do that wherever you're listening to the podcast. If you're leave it in the feedback section wherever you're listening to the podcast, or if you are watching the podcast, leave it down in the comment section below. But anyway, like I've already said, in the podcast today, I'm reviewing the newest Marvel film, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So here we go again. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, like I already said, is a new film in the MCU, and it's once again directed by Peyton Reed, who previously directed the first two Ant-Man films. And basically, the quote-unquote plot follows Scott Lang, aka Ant-Man, once again played by Paul Rudd, who is enjoying life. We see him now after the events of Avengers Endgame, enjoying his life. You know, he's written a book, he's doing well, he's in a great relationship with Hope, once again played by Evangeline Lilly in this film, returning from, the first two Ant-Man films as well. Yeah, he's doing great. But at the same time, though, he doesn't have the best relationship with his daughter. And then it turns out that his daughter, who I think is called Cassie, has been working on this sort of invention with Hope and Michael Douglas' character, whose name escapes me right now. Yeah, they've been working on this invention together, which essentially sends everyone down to the quantum realm. And then, conveniently, when they're about to show off their invention, Janet, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, I'm struggling with the names of it, I'm not going to lie, but Michelle Pfeiffer's character says that if you go into the quantum realm, bad things are going to happen. And I should have told you something that I didn't tell you before because plot convenience. But then they all end up in the quantum realm, though. They all get zapped into the quantum realm. All the members of the family, so that's Michael Douglas' character, Michelle Pfeiffer's character, the Wasp, Ant-Man, and then Cassie as well, which is Ant-Man's daughter. They all get zapped into the quantum realm, and then when they go into the quantum realm, a lot of bad things start to happen, as you might have expected. They come into contact with this rebellion who's been fighting against, the oppressive means in the quantum realm, and then also we meet Kang. Once again played by Jonathan Majors. Kang was I know it wasn't Kang, but it sort of was Kang at the same time in Loki Series 1, and he's back here, but it's a different version of Kang, and Jonathan Majors is playing him, and he's the new big bad of the MCU, and he's introduced here in this film. And then our main characters have to fight off against Kang before it's too late and the world ends or something like that, or Kang gets into the world and he ends the world. I don't know. I lost it. I'm not gonna lie. I lost it with this film. Surprise, surprise, because I didn't like this film whatsoever. In fact, I hated it. And, there's no surprise there, like I've already said, because I have not liked a lot of Marvel films in the past. There's been some Marvel movies I've absolutely adored and some I really enjoy. Like, I really enjoy the first Iron Man. I kind of enjoy the Tom Holland Spider-Man films. I mean, they're nothing special, but they're okay, they're watchable. And also, I've loved the Guardians of the Galaxy films, and I enjoyed the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, and I didn't mind Black Panther Wakanda Forever. It had its perks. I mean, I think that film also has a lot of problems, but it has its perks. But the thing is, though, you now get into Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, and you do start to feel that the MCU it's getting exhausted now. You feel exhausted by the stories they're telling. And the thing is about the first two Ant-Man movies is they're not brilliant, but they're watchable. You know, the first Ant-Man movie is fun, at least. You know, the thing is, when I first watched that first Ant-Man movie, I remember absolutely loving it. But then over time, you know, after first seeing it, I remember hearing that it was originally going to be written and directed by Edgar Wright. And Edgar Wright is my favourite filmmaker working today. So when I found out that, it really put me off from watching the film. I did watch it a second time at some point, but I've been watching it a second time and just thinking, this could have been an Edgar Wright film. Imagine an Edgar Wright Superman movie. That would have been awesome. And then Ant-Man and the Wasp came out in 2018. I remember seeing that film at the cinema. I didn't really like that film, to be honest, but again, it was watchable. This Ant-Man film is unwatchable. It's terrible. Like, it is awful. And this is no hyperbole here. I mean, completely honest. This might be, at least for my money, one of the worst comic book movies ever made. This really might be. And, you know, I wasn't going into this expecting a masterpiece. I never go into a comic movie expecting a masterpiece. Rarely ever. Ever. I don't really ever do that. I've never done that, actually. I just wanted something fun and enjoyable, like the Tom Holland Spider-Man films. But I completely lost it. I mean, there's no character arcs with any of the characters whatsoever. None of the characters have any character arcs. And then also, you've got this story which is pulling all these different directions. It's a terribly written script. And then you have Kang as the villain. And Jonathan Majors is as good as Kang. Can't even speak today. He's good as Kang. But at the same time, though, he just keeps randomly walking into scenes later on in the film. And it's such a big CGI fest because it's in the quantum realm. And I don't know why they decided to, you know, make a film that is 90% of it set in the quantum realm. Like, the first 10% of the film, the first 10 to 15 minutes of the movie, is set in the real world. And I enjoyed that first 10 to 15 minutes, for the most part. I mean, it's cringeworthy. Some of the dialogue in that first 10 to 15 minutes is really bad, like atrocious. But there's a funny family dinner scene that has a great moment between Michael Douglas' character and Paul Rudd's characters, because that relationship was a great part in the first Batman films. And not to go into too much detail, but that relationship is largely forgotten about in this movie. But there's some good parts in the first 10 to 15 minutes, at least in my opinion. But then you get into the quantum realm, and the first 5 minutes of the quantum realm wasn't bad, actually. I will say that it wasn't bad, because I'm someone who loves the fantasy sci-fi genre. I love the fantasy genre and I love the sci-fi genre. You know, some of my favourite films of all time are the Star Wars movies, the original Star Wars trilogy, should I say. Because one of the things I love about Star Wars is escaping into a different world. And I love that about the fantasy genre as well. It's a lot of the Rings films and so on and so on and so on. You know, I just can't think of some other examples off the top of my head. But I love the sci-fi genre and the fantasy genre. So you get into the quantum and I'm thinking, okay, this isn't actually too bad because I'm escaping into a different world. But then about 5 minutes into entering the quantum realm, there's this big CGI action scene taking place. And I was like, what? This is the way you're introducing the quantum realm? You know, your main setting for the rest of the film. This is the way you're introducing the quantum realm? It is awful. The CGI is just way overused, and also there's some clear uses of the volume as well. And if you don't know what the volume is, they use it on things like The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan, and they also used it on the Batman, although I think they used it very well on the Batman, but then they also used it on Thor: Love and Thunder, and I think it was obvious in Thor: Love and Thunder, but not nearly as obvious as it is here. God, the use of the volume is terrible. There was way too much CGI. And, you know, I'd love to see some of the behind-the-scenes photos and behind-the-scenes videos and whatnot, you know, the B-roll of them shooting the film, because it'd just be green screen. Green screen and occasionally some sets where the characters can walk, so they actually look like they were interacting in the world, but in reality, it's completely fake. And I don't like that about it. You know, why did you have to set it in the quantum realm? I understand that the quantum realm might be a key part of the comics, but newsflash, I've never read a comic book in my life, and I never intended, by the way. But at the same time, though, so has most of the audience who have never watched this film. Most of the audience who will never watch it, most of the audience who have watched the film have never read a comic book. That's the reality. And so, I don't want somebody had to say in the quantum realm, but okay, they said it in the quantum realm, that's fine. But at the same time, though, they could have built sets in the quantum realm, though. You know, look at fictional sort of, planets in things like the original Star Wars trilogy. They look real because they shot them on location. And even the ones that they didn't shoot location, they built sets, like the Death Star. They built a set for that. They should have built more sets for the quantum realm. And don't make it as goofy and as zany as it is. You watch, and you don't believe in any of the quantum realm whatsoever. You just know it's CGI. I mean, the CGI isn't bad, but it's not nearly as good as the CGI, say, in Avatar: The Way of Water. And I know that's comparing a James Cameron film, and James Cameron, is obsessed with CGI. He's a perfectionist. The CGI in a James Cameron film is going to be good. So I know that's a bit of an unfair comparison. But literally just having Avatar: The Way of Water gone just around Christmas, I just saw that film, and you watch the CGI in this movie and just go, yeah, it's not nearly as good. It's not nearly as good, and it's not believable. The CGI in Avatar is believable. It makes me believe that those avatars, at least in the second Avatar film, are actually real. I didn't believe anything in this film was real. I didn't believe any of the creatures that were real, and it doesn't feel like there's an ounce of originality, because a lot of the film, this film has been compared to Star Wars a lot, and those comparisons are valid. I can completely see why they're comparing them, though. But at the same time, it's not the good Star Wars it should be compared to, it's the bad Star Wars. Honestly, this felt like a pseudo version, it felt like a poor man's version of Star Wars Episode 2, The Attack of the Clones. So many similarities, like Kang's army. Honestly, every time I saw Kang's army, I half expected the Imperial March to be playing in the background, like you get in the final scene in Attack of the Clones, anyone remembers that film. That's my favourite scene of that film, by the way. Attack of the Clones is my least favourite Star Wars movie. But the thing is, though, I would rather watch Attack of the Clones over this movie any day. And like I said before, Attack of the Clones is my least favourite Star Wars film. That Star Wars film annoys me. That and Solo. No, I'm not going to get into that though. But you get the point of making. So much of this film feels like it's copying of Attack of the Clones. Like the whole of Kang's army just looks like the clones in Attack of the Clones. And then also you get this part with Bill Murray as well, which feels... well, it feels unnecessary to start off with. It's completely unnecessary. I don't know why Bill Murray's in this film. In fact, no, I do know why Bill Murray's in this film. I'm lying. I do know why he's in the film because I heard an interview when he was talking about, oh yeah, I did a Marvel film this like a year ago now. I did a Marvel film because I'm friends with the director. So the director just got his friend in the film. Okay, that's cool. I wish every filmmaker could do that because there's no need for Bill Murray in this film whatsoever. But anyway, yeah, there's a whole section with Bill Murray which feels like it's completely ripped out of Empire Strikes Back, just like, oh, we're going to take that little bit because we can, oh, we're going to borrow this from Attack of the Clones because we can, oh, and by the way, the Quantum Realm looks like Coruscant, the planet where you have the Jedi Temple in the Star Wars prequels. It just copies Star Wars so much. It copies the Star Wars prequels so much, and it made me wish that I was watching The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, or Revenge of the Sith over this film. I actually think Revenge of the Sith is quite a good movie, but Attack of the Clones and The Phantom Menace are not good films, and I would still rather watch them over this one. I really would, and I really don't like Attack of the Clones, but, I was wishing I was watching that film instead of this one. And, okay, the film does have a little bit of originality. You get this, jelly-like creature in the film that is part of the rebellion. Again, another bit of Star Wars there. Let's add rebellion into the film. Why? Because that's what Star Wars did. Star Wars had a rebellion, let's have a rebellion in this film as well. But anyway, there's this jelly-like creature who is just weird, though. There's a lot of comedy with the jelly-like creature, which didn't really work for me. But also the just like Creature, and if you've seen the film, hopefully you know what Creature I'm talking about, is voiced by David Dastmalchian, and I might pronounce that person's name wrong, and apologies if I am, and he played Polka Dot Man in the Suicide Squad. But he was also in the previous 2 Ant-Man films. He was part of Scott's crew. By the way, spoiler here, though not really spoilers because he weren't revealed in the trailers, so he weren't hinted at, they're not even in this movie whatsoever. Yeah, Ant-Man's crew is not even in this film. So, you know, if any of Michael Pena or any of Michael Pena's friends, which you got in the previous 2 Ant-Man films, you know, that heist crew which helped Scott, they're completely missing. And I do think that the absence of Michael Pena is noticeable. Because Michael Pena, well, although I don't really like the first 2 Ant-Man films too much, I always liked when he popped up in them, and he always told his story like, okay, since he last been here, this is what's been going on. It's always been quite funny to watch Michael Pena in the previous 2 Ant-Man films, but he's not in this one, and that's not a spoiler. It hasn't been hinted that he would be, but yeah, I do think his absence is noticeable. But David Dastmalchian was part of Ant-Man's crew in the previous 2 Ant-Man films, and then he's in this film where he's playing a different character. I don't really like when the MCU does that. They've done it before, and it's annoyed me. Just cast someone else. There's plenty of actors who could have played that part, who could have voiced that part. Plenty of voice actors who would have killed for that role. I like David Dastmalchian. I really liked him in The Suicide Squad, and I also liked him, was it Blade Runner 2049? No, Prisoners, the Denis Villeneuve film Prisoners. I really liked him in that, but he didn't need to be in this film. He didn't need to do the voiceover, so I don't really know why that's in there. And also, the actors look bored for the most part of the film. I mean, Paul Rudd's good because it's Paul Rudd, and I've enjoyed Paul Rudd ever since I saw him for the first time in Friends as the person who gets married to Phoebe, what's his name, Mike in Friends. I've always enjoyed Paul Rudd, but you know, he's just doing his Paul Rudd charm in this film. And if it wasn't Paul Rudd, I don't think I would have enjoyed watching that character whatsoever. But it was Paul Rudd, so okay, that's fine. But then you also get Evangeline Lilly, whose part is pretty much useless in this film. There's no real use to the Wasp in this film whatsoever. I mean, apart from the end, but then in the end, not to go into much detail, but it's kind of like, oh, we haven't given the Wasp any part to do, let's just throw her into this scene. That's what it felt like. And then also, Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer seemed relatively bored throughout most of the film, especially Michael Douglas. You know, it does feel like the people behind the camera, the filmmakers, you know, they gave Michael Douglas a line, said, just say this line in the scene. You know, he doesn't really feel like his heart's in it anymore. And Catherine Newton, I think the actress name, who plays the older Cassie, I think she's good in the film as well, but not stand out, I'm not going to lie. I wasn't really a big fan of her character. There were some lines of dialogue with her character which were really poorly written. Like, really poorly written. But I also don't know why it's Catherine Newton playing that character, because if I'm not mistaken, didn't someone else play Ant-Man's daughter at the end of Avengers Endgame, the older version of Ant-Man's daughter? I might be wrong there, and apologies if I am, but I don't really know why it's a different actress. I do feel that's kind of mean to the actress who played her at the end of Avengers Endgame. But anyway, it is what it is. That's Hollywood for you. But yeah, it seems like the actors, for the most part, are all bored in this film. Jonathan Majors I like, but Kang just walks into scenes, and I didn't care about him. I didn't care about any of the characters. Like I said, none of them have character arcs, and none of the performances are particularly memorable. Bill Murray comes on screen just enough to embarrass himself, and I love Bill Murray, by the way. He's one of my favourite actors. I mean, it's a bit sad about the allegations which he's had over the past year or so, but I love Bill Murray still. But he didn't need to be in this film. I really like Paul Rudd, but even he seemed a bit bored of the character he was playing now. And it seemed like they were just a bit tired of being on these huge green screen sets, because I guarantee you that's what they were on. And the musical score, by the way, I think it's by Christoph Beck, is so annoying. It's so suffocating. It sounds like it wants to be Hans Zimmer. It keeps going, boom, boom. It just keeps being loud and constantly there. And there's no, you know, memorable music themes from this film. There's none of them. And it's a really bad score. I also thought it was poorly directed. I don't think that Peyton Reed is a particularly good director, and I think him dealing with these big budget set pieces really don't work. It does feel quite a lot like the actors are just looking at stuff and Peyton Reed's behind the camera going, don't worry, I'll add it in with CGI a bit later. That's what it feels like a lot for the most part. And I just hated it. I really hated it. Like, truly hated It's one of the worst comic movies I've ever seen. And I was actually thinking about, I was walking out of the cinema, I was going, is it worse than Eternals? And I was thinking, no, it's not worse than Eternals, because Eternals is almost about 3 hours. At least this movie is over in 2 hours. I mean, it drags, but at least it's over in 2 hours. And it's so messy and incoherent as well. Like, the final battle sequence is like Peyton Reed sat there with the people who worked on the VFX of the film went, how many stuff can we add in here? Can we put this in there? Oh yeah, just throw this in there. Can we put this in there? Oh, just throw that in there as well. Can we put this in there? Yeah, why not? Just throw this in there. Throw that in there. Throw this in there. It just feels like they're throwing everything at the wall and nothing sticking in this film. And it was so suffocating as well. A lot of this film felt like I was being hit over the head with a bat that was made by Marvel. It was a Marvel bat was going like this, like that, look at this, look at that, look at that. That's what it felt like through so much of this film. And I couldn't wait to get out of the cinema. I watched the first mid-credit scene and I was like, is that a joke? Is that actually a joke? It feels like a sketch from something like, I don't know, Saturday Night Live. It does not feel like it's an actual setup for anything to come. It was actually quite bad in my opinion. And so I was staying there thinking, just stay to the rest of the post-credits, but then I was thinking, I just want to get out of the cinema. I just want to get out of this experience because it was a really unengaging movie experience. It was really awful. You know, I kind of had the same feelings about this as I do with The Whale, which I viewed earlier this week. That's two movies which I never want to see again in the same week. I never want to see the film again, and I never want to see The Whale again. And so it's been a pretty bad week in terms of movies for me. I just couldn't wait to get out of the cinema. And I honestly walked out the cinema, walked into I can't even speak, fresh air. And it was like, oh God, thank God I'm out of that cinema. Thank God I'm away from that film. I never, ever want to see that again because it's a big CGI fest. And some of my favourite movies have CGI in them, but not nearly as much as this. And they're also much more believable than this one. You know, the Hobbit movies, which I love, I don't care what anyone says, I love the Hobbit films, they use a hell of a lot of CGI. But I believe in them more than I believe in Quantumania. Yep, it's not a good film. Let's see if anything on these other notes are here. You know, just written down things here. I'm so exhausted. I can't even be bothered anymore. But these are things I've written down here. I got to a point with this movie when it felt so unwatchable. And you know, also, Ant-Man now is invincible. I forgot to also mention that. Ant-Man is invincible, by the way, as we find out later in this film, which is kind of incredible. So, we're just starting to make every superhero invincible, so no superhero can actually be defeated. And also, it's a film about multiverse, and the multiverse idea is a really bad idea because then if someone dies in one world, guess what? Go into another world and they're there and they're still alive. So the whole multiverse idea is really bad, but apparently Ant-Man and the Wasp are both invincible. Also, like I said before, the Wasp's role is relatively useless for most of the film. And, you know, the film, it does have some okay moments. You know, I'm being generous here. Some okay moments where the comedy isn't awful. I mean, the comedy, for the most part, fell flat with me in this film. You know, apart from that one joke, which I spoke about with Michael Douglas and Paul Wood earlier in this review. You know, the comedy of the film, for the most part, falls flat. But I was in a cinema which was about half full, and there were people laughing at some of the jokes. I mean, some of the jokes were just flat out appalling. Like, appallingly poor. You know, so bad that when they told the joke in the film, they'd wait 10 seconds. You know, they kind of expected the audience to laugh. But in my cinema, the audience didn't laugh. And I didn't laugh as well. But you can tell that a lot of people put work into the film. Some of the jokes are fine. The acting is fine. The filmmaking, I was about to say it's fine, but even that's no, it's just awful. It's just really, really awful. And I'm not sure what this film was trying to do. What message am I getting? What am I meant to get from this film? I'm over it. I'm over the Marvel Cinematic Universe now. It's got to a point where I just really don't care anymore about anything in this Marvel Cinematic Universe. And you may sit there and you may go, oh, well, that's just, why do you keep watching these films? You know what? Now I am going to stop watching these movies. This is the last straw. I'm going to watch Guardians of the Galaxy 3 because, as I said earlier in this review, I'm a huge fan of the previous 2 Guardians of the Galaxy films. I love them, in fact. But and even that I'm worried about. I'm not that excited about anymore because, even so I didn't hate any of the Marvel films last year, and even so, not a lot of Marvel films that I actually despise, like I despise Eternals and like I despise this film, they're all just not for me. That's it, they're not for me. That's what I'm going to say, they're not for me. And if they are for you, just almost knocked on the table there, if they are for you, that's great. I don't want to take your liking or loving of any of these Marvel films away from you whatsoever. I really don't. Because the fact that these Marvel movies work for people and they get people off to the cinema and they get them to go and experience these movies in IMAX, 3D, 2D, whatever, the fact that people go to the cinema to see these movies is great. I love that. And I love hearing people's experience with these films as well. But I just don't have these experiences though. I just don't go into a Marvel movie and have these amazing experiences, or very rarely. They're not for me. That's what they are. And they're not really for me. And I love the fact that other people have these amazing experiences though. I really do. And if you like this film, that's great. We'd probably watch a different film, but that's great. I'm really, really happy for you. But, like I've already said, Ant-Man and The Wasp Quantumania is an absolutely awful film in my opinion. And it's the last straw of me for Marvel. After Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I'm giving up. I'm out. Unless I hear that any of these movies are absolutely outstanding, I'm not going to go back in. There you go. And it's not just this movie, by the way. You've watched my other MCU reviews. I've not really liked many other MCU films either over the past year. And I'm just tired of it all now. I want to watch some actually good films. You know what I mean? But that's just me. All in all, I'm going to say that Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, you know what? I'm feeling mean. I'm going to say that it's a 1 out of 10. In reality, this film probably isn't as awful as many people as I'm making it out to be. Probably a lot of people like this film. I can't see why. I can't see why. But I'm just a nobody. So, don't take my opinion as fact or anything like that. I hate when YouTubers, are online and they try to assert their opinion as fact. Because all opinions are subjective. And when you try to do that, I feel like you're trying to do something you shouldn't be doing. I feel like you're trying to get people to dislike a movie. And anyway, there's just so many other problems I have with this film as well. Just reading through some of the notes I have here. Just reiterating some of the stuff as well. I'd love to see some of the behind the scenes of this film because I bet it's just green screen and blue screen. And also, why is it in the quantum realm? There's no need for it to be in the quantum realm. I understand the quantum realm might be in the comics, but guess what? This is work called adaptation. We don't have to have it in the quantum realm. And also, by the way, the amount of times that the quantum realm was the word quantum realm, I said in the first 10 minutes, it's insufferable. I get the point. You're going into the quantum realm. I get it. Just go into the quantum realm. Stop saying quantum realm. It's like quantum realm, quantum realm, quantum realm, quantum realm. I get that. And also, by the way, in the film, and this isn't really a spoiler, but I suppose it kind of is, so mild spoilers here in case you haven't seen the film yet. Janet, Michelle Pfeiffer's character, meets Jonathan Majors Kang years and years before we see her present day in this film. And yet she hasn't brought him up. And okay, that's fine, they can explain that. But then, correct me if I'm wrong, well, I can't speak that, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't Ant-Man in the quantum realm between the events of Ant-Man and the Wasp and Avengers Endgame? And didn't we find out he was in the quantum realm for about 5 years? How did he not run into Kang? They don't explain that. I mean, I might miss something. And you can tell how much I don't care about Marvel Cinematic Universe because I'm really hazy on these details. At least I think I am anyway. But yeah, they might have explained that in another movie, but I've lost track. You know, I love this movie as well. It feels like a setup for the rest of quote-unquote Phase 5, whatever that bloody means. And the thing is, though, you know, I hate movies which are just set up for another film because we don't have the payoff yet. That's one of the reasons I don't really like Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. That's one of the reasons I don't really like the second Fantastic Beasts film. What's it called? Crimes of Grindelwald. You know, that's one of the reasons I don't really like that film, because it just sets up for the third Fantastic Beasts movie. And at the moment, all we have is this film. All we have is a setup for what's coming with Kang. I mean, even the tagline on the poster of the film is a new dynasty, and everyone knows now that Kang is a new bad villain because they've already announced that one of the Avengers films in the next couple of years is going to be called Avengers Kang Dynasty. And, you know, fine, but there's no sort of excitement to that anymore. Everyone knows where this thing's going then. We all know that Kang is going to, you know, win against all these people and eventually rise and eventually fight the Avengers, and I don't care. It's like, we know where this is going, though. We know there's no sort of excitement anymore. There's no sort of engagement. I can't imagine audiences being terribly surprised by the stories of all these movies. Like, I don't even know if I'm making sense anymore. And also, another mild spoiler here, in case you haven't seen the film. Apparently, Ant-Man and the Wasp can defeat Kang, but Thor, a literal god, can't. That's what's implied by this movie. Not going into too much details there in case you haven't seen the film, because I only gave a mild spoiler warning there, but yeah. Absolutely hated this film. It was a complete CGI fest, and it didn't need to be. It should have been a lot better. It really should have immersed me into the world of Quantumania, and it didn't. It was actually painful to watch after a while. I thought it was wildly incoherent. It was so messy. It felt like a mishmash of all the different ideas. Nothing really felt too original. In fact, the creatures in this film are mostly based off food. There's a creature who looks like a broccoli, and also there's a creature who looks like jelly, and I'm not really sure why. It missed a lot of the good parts of the first two Ant-Man films. You know, got the good parts, like Michael Peña's character, are absent in this film. And the things about the first two Ant-Man films, they are watchable, you know? They're set in the real world, and, you know, even so I'm not really a fan of those films, at least they're kind of relatable. I can't see this film being relatable. Sure, it has a father-daughter storyline, it has a good heart beneath all this stupid, silly nonsense, but it's not something which I can see people taking away from this film. I can't see people watching the film and going, well, you know what I particularly loved? The storyline between Cassie and Ant-Man. And also, that's been the same thing going throughout all three Ant-Man films. It's nothing new. You know, you'd think that this film would do something new and fresh and exciting, but no. It's just got a really noisy score. The film's really noisy in general. The sound design is a bit annoying. The performances aren't great. Margaret Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer seem bored. And I'm bored doing this review. You know, that's it for me. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is the last straw for me for Marvel. I watched Guardians 3 because I love the other Guardians films, but even that I'm not too excited for anymore. And I just thought this was an absolutely awful film. But heck, that's just me. And like I said before, I'm going to say that Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, I'm going to say that it's a 1 out of 10 from me. Hey guys, that's it now. I've rambled way too much about Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, but if you didn't get it already, I don't really like the film. But still, I've rambled way too much about it. But let me know your thoughts on the film in the comment section below. If you enjoyed it, that's great. Please let me know why. I would love to learn why. And let me know why I'm wrong in the comment section below. But yeah, I despised this award. I despised it. But that's it for me on this podcast today. God, I got myself way too worked up, don't I? And I ramble on way too much. Anyway, that's it for me, like I already said. If you enjoyed this review, please feel free to like, subscribe, and also leave some feedback on what you enjoyed about this review and what you enjoyed about the podcast, should I say, and what I can improve on. Also, look forward to many more both film and TVs and, you know, podcasts coming very soon on the channel. And yeah, I suppose this is it. So, I'll see you guys again soon. But, bye for now. Bye.